Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in about 90 seconds. We're going to give another minute for folks to join us. And then we'll kick it off. All right, good afternoon again. Welcome to this afternoon's workshop, an introduction to NVivo. NVivo is qualitative data analysis software, which you will see abbreviated throughout as, not just throughout this presentation, but throughout the web. It's QDAS, qualitative data analysis software. So NVivo is one type of qualitative data analysis software that will let you work with large amounts of unstructured data, especially text data, and really other forms too, and use various different research methodologies. So we most often use it for qualitative data analysis, but it can also be mixed methods research analysis. And today what we're going to do is I'm going to give you an introduction to NVivo and show you how to do some of the most basic functions in NVivo to get you started. And then I'm going to share with you where you can get help and support from me and others as you continue your learning journey. Okay, so as we are getting started, first I will introduce myself. I am Dr. Myla Turner. I am the social science data and research librarian here at FSU Libraries. So what that means is that I am a liaison to sociology and demography, but I also have a special role and function to support all of you with your social science research. And that could be support through any stage of the research process. When you are conceptualizing new ideas, you want to talk it through, you want to bounce some ideas off of someone, as you get started, if you need tips and best strategies for literature review and synthesis, I can help you with that. There's a teacher workshop on that. And then different research methods. So right now we're focusing on qualitative research. Earlier this month, I taught a workshop on SPSS, which we most often use for quantitative, say we, sociologists. It's a statistical package for social sciences. So we use that for quantitative data analysis. But then as you progress through your research, if you need assistance with the data analysis or all the way through to your publication presentation, if I can't help you, I can direct you to who can. But I myself am a researcher, so I know a lot of things that may help you. And prior to becoming a librarian a few years ago, I was a professor teaching research methods. And so I think I'm able to assist with most things. But like I said, if I can't, I can get you to the right person who can help you. We've got librarians with lots of specialties, so it's not just me. I won't give you full background. I would say most of my research has been environmental sociology and looking at how people interact with their environments, how those environments influence people, especially related to like hazardous events, hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that. So if my examples sound a little strange for sociology, that's because most of my work has been really interdisciplinary with environmental stuff as well. Okay, so let's jump in. So today, like I said, I'm going to give you an introduction to NVivo. It can be a lot. Thankfully, this workshop is recorded. And also, if you register for this workshop, you will get the slide deck. But I'm going to spend, the first part basically telling you, about the software and what it can do. And then we're going to dive in and actually explore and build and set up some things. And all of that is not going to be in the slides. So the slide deck is great, but being here for the workshop is even more valuable. And if not, listening to the recording would be even more valuable. Okay, so talking about what we're going to do today, here is the agenda. We'll have very, very brief introductions. I'm going to give you a QDOS snapshot, an overview of NVivo, how we access NVivo, and demonstrate those basic functions within the software, and then show you where to find additional resources, and leave plenty of time for talk a lot. I should not say plenty of time. I'm gonna try my hardest to leave time for questions at the end, but you are welcome to pause me and ask me to repeat something, or answer another question, or demonstrate something again as we go along. All right. So very simply, I'm just curious, what backgrounds, what disciplinary backgrounds that you all come from, and then if you any expertise or experience using NVivo, like how comfortable are you with NVivo on a scale from 1 to 10, or if you have ideas how you might use this software, I would love to hear that as well. And so if you are on Zoom, you can put that in the chat. If you're in the room, you can just share and let us know. Raise your hand.
We can't see anything on.
Oh, if I shared the screen. Thank you.
Yep.
And I just saw your message.
No, no worries.
Sorry, Zoomies. I think you should be able to see now, but just in case, you'll let me know, right?
Awesome. Yep.
You all didn't miss anything, but just for your sake, I'll just go back and so you see my contact information here. My pronouns are she and her, and my email, but I'm going to come back to that at the end as well. The agenda for what we are covering here today, the one that I basically read aloud. And now that we're getting into the introductions, I'm going to share with you. And just give me just a moment if I can find. There. All right. So I see a few folks have already answered in the chat. So comfort level of a 4 with a background in social work. And I see developmental psychology. What about in here?
I'm Iman and come from Egypt. About the software, I heard about it. Try to most of my work in quantitative research, but I'm planning to do a quantitative, so I need.
Well, excellent. You are in the right place. Okay, so education. Anybody else want to share?
I'm Shaima from Egypt in the same fellowship for 1 semester. I'm assistant professor of educational foundational education and educational planning. Most of my work is qualitative. I have never used NVivo before.
Okay, excellent. You're perfect place for the introduction. Yeah. Yes. Anybody else want to share? You're not required to, just to know.
Okay, I'm Zainab. I'm also from Egypt in the same fellowship. I'm a professor in education technology. Yes, most of my researches was quantitative, and I have used SPSS. I have some qualitative, but I used I didn't use any software. I coded by myself. That's why I want to learn more about how to use the software in analyzing qualitative data.
Excellent, excellent. This workshop is not going to go too deep on qualitative methodology, really not deep at all, just scratching the surface. And we're really going to focus on the software. So it's great that you already have a background in qualitative. Even if you don't, you should get enough information to follow along with us and even begin to start using it today. Anybody else want to share?
Education course. I'm also from education field. I'm in TESOL. I'm from instructional systems and learning technology. My research is also about qualitative study because I'm interested in student engagement and I want to know why they are motivated to do this or that, or about the technical student classrooms. But I've never used NVivo. So my friends recommended that tool. I use Deduce, Target, Excel, some other tools. I'm really learn more about that.
Awesome, awesome. And you don't have to, but you can. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Kiersey. I'm an engineering student, biomedical engineering student at FAMU. I've never used NVivo, but I'm interested in just learning more about organizing data and analyzing data. So I think it'd be a good tool.
I agree. And we've got one more introduction online, another student in educational technology. So we've got a lot of education folks in the house, that's awesome. And doing qualitative research, but new to NVivo as well. So most of us, not us, but mostly everyone is brand new, which is great. You're all in the same place. Someone, that has moderate experience, which is cool. I would say for myself, I can really relate to your introductions because I've done quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods projects. But recently, like my last few projects were qualitative and we did not use NVivo. And the reason that we didn't use NVivo is because we didn't all have access to NVivo. We're at different institutions. And so I'm here with access. And NVivo is a collaborative tool, but you still need to have a license to collaborate across institutions. And so we ended up using not Excel, but the Google equivalent. So Google Sheets and Google Tables to organize and structure the textual data. So I've got a lot of that experience as well. I first started using NVivo, a while ago, very, very long.
Excuse me, what do you mean by Google Tables? What?
Are you familiar with Google Docs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just like the Google Documents is like the equivalent of Microsoft Word, Google Sheets is the equivalent.
Yeah,
of
yes, you mean, oh,
Excel.
yeah, you mean by,
And
yes, yes.
And Google Tables, I don't know the difference between sheets and tables, but it's like a whole different.
Yes, something like it's Excel. I mean, you mean Excel. Okay, yes.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Excel.
Yes. But Microsoft requires that license and
Yes.
Google does not. So when I'm
Yes, it's
working with
free.
folks across institutions,
That's good. We all have access to Google and also for Microsoft Excel. That's good.
yes.
You can use it.
Yes.
I know it's
absolutely.
NVivo. It's expensive, and
But while you're here, you can use your FSU credentials to access NVivo, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, and I heard a few of you mentioned, exploring software. That's what QDOS is, qualitative data analysis software. NVivo is not the only one. NVivo is just one of many. You see their logos here at the bottom. You might have heard of Atlas TI or Max QDA or Deduce. And then there's another one that's not listed here, Taget. And so they all have, different functionalities. You have to make your decision, on what's best for you. And it's usually a matter of cost and access. There's no, one right one or one best one. I will say that NVivo has been around a long time. I started using NVivo when I was in my master's program. So that was, that's 2009. Before that, no, about that time, 2009 or 2010, yeah. So it's been around a long time, and as a result of that, There's been a lot of development into it, and there's a large community of people who use it and a lot of support for using it. And so I used it for a project way back then, and I didn't use it for a long time. And then I'm getting re-familiarized with it, even though I've worked on qualitative research. Not having access to the tool until I got here. So that's awesome. But for what you should know about any of these, and as you make your decision, that we call them qualitative data analysis software, but it's really you who has to run the show and tell it what you want it to do. It's not just like SPSS where you're using the tool, specifically for analysis. It can do so much more than analysis. I like to think of it as an entire data management system for your qualitative projects. But again, you have to be the one to tell it what you want it to do. And so for any of these programs, like I said, a data management system, it's also been termed like a textual laboratory, a way to organize all of your materials, including articles and scholarly literature. You can capture your notes and observations. You can pull data from websites and social media. You can have a research journal where you basically are keeping memos. They call it memos. Doing text queries and searches. You can transcribe within the program. You can, write files or write reflections in there. You can even do some visualization in these programs. So there's a lot that you can do, but you should also know some of the things that the software won't do. Like I said, you have to be the one to control it and use it. It's not just going to do things for you. And I say it's not going to fully analyze your data for you, but there are features in there where you can run queries. And then, of course, from there, you have to do the analysis. You can create a matrix, but from there, you have to do your analysis. It even has auto-coding features, but it has to be trained. So you can't remove yourself from the data analysis process. I don't know why you would even want to, but you can't do it anyway. But it will make your data analysis, it can make it easier, it can make it faster, especially if you're dealing with large amounts of text. And then another way to think about these qualitative software programs as them being, very flexible and agnostic. So no matter what theory you're using, no matter what qualitative methodology you're using, you can do that within the program rather than, tell the software. It's not like generative AI where you can say, I'm doing a grounded theory project on student engagement in the classroom, analyze this data. It's not going to do that in that sort of way for you. But, we can structure our data, organize our data, make it visible, be able to make a project portable by storing it like in the system, in the cloud, and then, be able to access it from other places. You can collaborate with others and then keep really good records on what it is that you are doing. And so all of those programs can do all of those things, but we are focused on one program today, NVivo. And why NVivo? Because we have a campus license for NVivo. But like I said, why did we get that campus license? Because we believe it is one of the better software because it's been around so long and has so many features. And this is what faculty were requesting. So we have NVivo. Okay. And just to be clear, because I'm saying qualitative data analysis a lot, you can analyze lots of different file types, any of your unstructured text, audio, video, photos. Think about your interviews, your focus group surveys, social media data, even journal articles. So all of that. And then if that term or the name NVivo sounds familiar from your qualitative studies, although it is spelled differently, NVivo meaning within the living environment of work. So within the living, so making meaning within the living part of your data. So very, when we get inside, you'll see that the environment that it creates, allowing us to make meaning right there on the spot, on the photos, within the documents, within the videos, being able to create and annotate things. All right, I think I just told you most of those and the actual functions. So all the reasons why I think we should use it, but then the actual functions, most of which I'm going to show you here today, how to import your data and organize it, how to code. I think I'll even show you the auto coding feature, how to run some basic text queries. I don't know if we'll get around to getting to the visualizations other than maybe a word cloud. Importing and exporting bibliographic data, sharing your projects, and exporting data. So I mentioned lots of different file types. Basically, you can use most of them, if not all of them, within NVivo. So if you already have a project or you're in the midst of a project, this is great because you've already generated some files, probably even have some data files, and then looking for a way to organize them. And so if you got a lot of stuff, we can import that into NVivo and organize it. But if you're just starting or you've got a brand new project, you can create the structure for it. And then knowing that you can use all of these types of files and bring them in. I should also mention that one of these, the websites captured as PDF, that is an NVivo feature that I don't think we'll have time to talk capture, but just know that when you're trying to capture tweets or things that you can see on a web page, even if that web page has ads, there is a plugin that you can add to your web browser from NVivo called NCapture, the letter N, NCapture. And so when you visit things, you visit the website and you want to pull that into your data, you can hit that button for NCapture and it captures that PDF. The PDF you can import into your project. Okay. Yes.
If I import the audio file, will it generate the transcripts?
Yes. I have not tried that feature. I think I have audio file in there. Maybe it's a video. But yeah, it does auto transcriptions. Now I say I haven't tried it because I don't know how good the transcription is. I didn't have to use it because my last project, we did the interviews via Zoom and we had the Zoom transcriptions, and those weren't very good. So I still had to go back and fix them, but I should compare how the auto transcribe feature works in NVivo.
Excuse me, how did you do your Zoom transcriptions? How did you?
Zoom automatically did the transcription. I think I just had to like check a box when I set up the meeting. So these were interviews, you say 2021, 2022. And when we set up the Zoom interview, it was a colleague and I, one of us was the primary interviewer, the other one was the note taker, and then the individual that we were interviewing. And so when we set it up, I think in the settings, you have to maybe check the box for that. And you can do it beforehand or do it live in the Zoom meeting. And, you know, once the person, once the person consented to the audio recording, we hit record. I think the transcript happened automatically. But I would check the settings just in case, because now that I think about it, I'm remembering that you have to check that feature and it doesn't do it automatically. Because if you expect it to do it automatically, then it doesn't. You'll do your whole interview and then it won't be transcribed. So check the settings.
Okay, you remind, yes, I have seen this. You remind me right now. Yes.
Good. All right, I will keep going here. We are almost ready to launch into NVivo. And if you want to, if you've never used the VLab, what it is basically a virtual computer lab. And so we have lots of software on the VLab. And then, you know, you can access it from home when you log in, or you can access it from other places. It's just, it adds another layer to your projects. And that layer can sometimes be frustrating. I'll show you when we go into it. It's just, imagine if there is, actually just imagine like this computer here. This computer here in the library on campus has all the software we could possibly want. But when you're not here, you're not able to get on that computer. You got to log in remotely from wherever you are, and then you can access this computer, but you have to think about like how files are saved and how you get your files on and off. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But it's called the V Lab. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can also just go to a web browser and search for FSU V Lab. V as in victory. So FSU V Lab, and we have access to NVivo version 14. And it runs on PCs, it runs on Macs. It saves files a little bit differently on each, but same basic setup. Before we dive into NVivo, I just want to tell you some best practices for managing the data. So in general, for qualitative projects, because we can generate a lot of data and a lot of text data, like I know for maybe 30-minute interview, Zoom will give me a transcript that's more than 50 pages. And part of that is because it puts so many spaces in it, but that's a huge file. Well, compared to most things I work with. And so if you have multiple of those files, you just want to be sure to give some extra thought to how you are managing your data. So keeping copies of important info, backing up your data, arranging all your notes in some sort of order. So if that's chronological, and I say notes, but it could be notes, it could be your interviews, whatever research files you're generating, arrange it in some method that makes sense, okay? And then create a system for labeling and storing this. So unique identifiers for your cases, and that could be something like participant ID, the type of data collection method where, especially if you're doing mixed method study, you know, it could be interview 12, interview 13, interview 14, you know, focus group 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe you put the method in the file name. Or if you're collecting at multiple sites, it could be, you know, the interviews at the RAC library, 1. Interviews at Strozier Library, 1, 2, 3. Or, you know, just something so that you look at that file and you know intuitively what is in that file. It can include the dates. Actually, I recommend it includes the date or other, you know, some type of coding that makes sense to you. Be sure that you do this for all of your documents, artifacts in your project, and keep your data safe. Make sure nothing is missing. And once you practice these good management techniques on the front end, if you already have a project and it's time to import that project into NVivo, it'll make it all the more clearer and better for understanding. I already told you some of the things that we're going to do, but I do want us to get into getting the data in, annotating, coding, querying, and see if we can, you know, kind of reports we can generate from it. And I told you about qualitative data management in general, but some things you should know specific to NVivo. NVivo is a very powerful program, and at times it can be a slow program, but you want to make sure that your system meets technical specifications for using NVivo. And those tech specifications are on the Primavera NVivo website. I remember I'll put a link in these slides as well. And I mentioned that you can use it on Windows and Mac. So when you do an NVivo project, it saves its own file type as NVP. Okay, so .nvp on Windows, .nvpx on a Mac, and that is just for QSR NVivo. So if you are using other qualitative data analysis software, it's not, you know, maybe some have the functionality to open it, but it's not like cross-program compatible. You can, you know, back up your files. Using the VLab, I'm going to show you how to save those projects. But also remember, while you're in the midst of a project, that you save along the way, because one, if you have a really large project, it uses a lot more data to run, and it can seem like it's moving slowly, but NVivo will crash with the huge project files. And when you're in the process of coding and you get into the zone and you're coding, you want to be sure that you can capture what you're doing and save what you're doing, and be sure you'll be able to see that it's saving along the way. That way, if it did crash for some reason, that you will be able to recover your data. And then I mentioned the NVivo project files, but also you can generate, let's say, a word cloud, and you can export that as a JPEG image file, or you can export it in some of your analysis into Microsoft Word. So you can have your NVivo project type, but also export to a variety of different common file formats. All right, and if it does slow down on you, just be patient. Don't keep clicking or it will freeze. So just be patient with NVivo. Okay, now we can go get into NVivo, and I've got some slides for some of the things that we're going to do, but we might as well just kind of go in and do those things. So if you open a web browser and go search for FSU VLab, it should come up, right up at the top. I do have a link that I will share directly. Link, and the link is in the slide, so you can come back and click that link later. Do that. For some reason it's not letting me copy, but for those of you online, you can just search FSU VLab. It should come up for you. So once you click on that link, it takes you to a page like this, and you can hit what the page looks like, and you can hit sign in. It will take you to another page. I was signed in, but it signed me out because it's too long. Then it's going to ask for you to verify you are who you say you are. And this is what the inside of the VLab looks like, at least for me, because I have all of these favorite programs. They show up for me right on the home screen. But if you've never used it, then you won't see all of this. And then you can look at the top here under apps and see we have a lot of stuff that we offer. You just have to go down to the N or NVivo. And you can get on it that way. You can even add the star if you know you're going to come back and use it frequently, so that it shows up in your favorites. And then click, and it's launching now. But usually it takes a moment, which I expect that. And if you're a first-time user, then you will see, I don't know if it's going to, usually it starts with the tutorial and stuff. I don't know if it's all that here since I logged in before, and I logged in earlier. Be patient with it. Coming up. And just like most other programs, when you log in, because I've logged in to this before, it tells me my recent projects. It has some sample projects. So earlier today, I was looking at this sample project called project. But I could also open other projects. If you want more of a getting started tutorial, there's a getting started video, and then some ways to connect to one more. And if you ever need to know, like, okay, well, what version of NVivo am I using? Over here on the left, you've got about NVivo. I already told you we have version 14, but let's say, I don't know when the new versions come out, but at some point they might update it to 15. And if you're trying to get, particular help for the version you're working on, you got to know which version you're in. I'm going to see if any of my other projects are here. Okay. So I was talking about importing data. So if you're brand new to NVivo, you get to the screen, maybe you've already started collecting data or artifacts or literature, and you want to go ahead and start a new project. Excuse me. You can use this button to start a new project. If you already have, let's say, interview files or something, you So you still need to start a new project, give it a title. We'll call this practice project. You can add a little description for it as well if you want. You can tell it to keep a log of all of the actions you do. So if you are not working in NVivo every day, maybe you work on your project, you do an interview, you go into NVivo, you import it, you start to review that, clean that data, maybe even start to code that data, and you maybe even run a data query. But then you don't look at it for a month. If you want to have a log of all of the things you did, all the queries you ran, you can check that box. Tell you all of your user actions. And then it does offer a few languages, not a whole lot, but some major ones. Default is English, so we'll do that.
It's a cloud computing, yeah. So that's why.
Yes,
That's why we can access from anywhere. Yeah.
yes. Autosave, if you wanted to autosave for you. I feel like this is personal preference, but I'm from the era of, computers crashing and you losing a file and never finding that file again. So I remember to hit the save button all the time. But if you have the luxury of not having to think about that and you wanted to continue to autosave, you can do that. You can have it remind you to save things at certain intervals. And then even thinking about how your files might be recovered. Like the default is every 30 minutes to store the most recent file, and then it's going to tell you where you're storing it. And so I'm going to say, I'll keep those default settings. The only one I changed was autosave. So I said yes for autosave, create project. And then think about NVivo's patience. You will be building locations as you work with it. Now you see it's opening. This is the tour that I mentioned. It's really quick if you wanted to look at it, but I'm going to skip it now. And then it opens up to my screen. I should make it this screen so I don't do that, but this will work for now. So one of the things that you'll notice, some familiar setup, there is a ribbon at the top. And so if you're used to using Microsoft stuff, you might be familiar with this ribbon. So same sort of thought, same sort of setup. All right, so you open this new project. This is the part I was saying, the VLab adds an extra layer. So if you see this little semicircle with the lines through the top, that is your VLab, aka Citrix menu. When you hover over it, it becomes a full circle with some other circles, the Citrix logo. And what this allowed me to do is go full screen, download, upload, multi-monitor, and open a clipboard. What we are interested in are these first three. I'm not going to go full screen for now, but the most important buttons here, download and upload. You can't get your files into NVivo until you upload them into the VLab, the virtual computer, okay? And the same thing, you can't get your files out of NVivo without downloading them. So what I mean is, upload. All right, and so when I logged into the VLab, it gave me a user profile that is different from my typical laptop. It's not a desktop. And then I have to go and find the files. So, because this is not my computer, I don't think I added any files, but let's just say.
It's on OneDrive or something.
And then I have to sign into OneDrive, download it, upload it, and import it. But I do have other files, but let's just say there was something here. This is what you would do. Okay. So I'm gonna save this file. Save this file on desktop here so I can find it very easy. So now in NVivo, go back to the Citrix menu. First, upload to get your files in. Go into the desktop where I know I just saved this file. Go to the file. Open it. it's asking me where I want to upload this file. All right, this is very important because this is where I think I have my biggest headaches. Files tend to get lost, so I had to pay attention to where I'm saving. You see my name is here, but I'm not going, so when I expand that menu, the part that confuses me is that I've got this menu. So I've got a desktop here, then I've got my name here, but when I expand it, then I've got another desktop. And then let's say I can never remember, and then I got a folder called desktop. And so I can never remember which desktop it is, but nothing happened. That's because all I did was upload the file to the virtual computer lab. Now I need to get it off this virtual computer and into NVivo. And so now, when I'm on the home menu, I can do this from the file part, or I can go to import. And then there's also a way to do it. Let me show you. So import files. Now I just have to find it. So I know I saved it on one of those desktops. Oh, here go all my files. But I know it was under this PC.
This one, the blue one. Blue desktop.
Oh, here, it is here. Thank you. Apparently I've saved to this desktop before and didn't realize it. That's where all these other files came from. So I'll open this sample file. It's asking me just to be sure I want to import it. And depending on what you are importing, if this was an interview transcript, I would create a case for this. And so in NVivo, the cases are basically, I like to think of them as like a participant. So each case is someone that I've interviewed. So if this was an interview file, I would say create a case for each important file. And you can import more. I'm not going to check that box because this file is not. Import. And you see it's doing its thing. It's asking me if I want to keep that name, if I want to describe that file, and more metadata about it. And I'm just going to accept it as it is because I know there's nothing really there. So interfacing with the VLab, I feel like is the most difficult part. Once you master that, it's really easy to get your files in and out of NVivo. And I'll show you a little bit later about downloading basically the reverse of that process to get your stuff out of NVivo into wherever else. Otherwise, it's going to live in the lab and you're not going to be able to access it unless you're logged into the VLab. Okay, I'm going to go back to the home screen. And since I saw those other files, I have them in another project. Oh, this menu on the left panel, even though you have a ribbon at the top, I find it's often easier to navigate, but it won't make a lot of sense because I don't have anything in here really. I'm going to out and open. You see this NVivo icon that lets me know they're NVP files, NVivo project files. And so the one I'm going to open is teaching because it's where I imported a lot of data from the last qualitative project I worked on, which was an exploration of Black women's leisure experiences in the North Florida Panhandle. And because I have a variety of data from audio transcripts, like audio files, the document transcripts, notes documents, photos, all kinds of stuff. And so you see them here, that they are not really organized in a particular way. But just from me being in here playing around, you can see some of the data about the files. Okay. So I had a detour to tell you about importing, but I started telling you about the ribbon and what you can do with the ribbon. And the ribbon is a common to other ribbons that you have seen. And then the panel on the side for most of the actions that you will do. Okay, so let's see, where do I want to start? I think I should start with memos and annotations. So I'm going to go to
أنا معايا الشنطة.
recording transcript. Okay, and this is a transcript from Zoom, so it hasn't been edited and it's kind of ugly, and I'm gonna push it and open now. All right, and so it's just a regular text file. Because I was doing the interview on Zoom, you see my name in here a lot.
حلو.
What I wanted to show you is the most basic thing that you can do, the coding. Okay, the coding, coding as the very first step toward like a thematic analysis of qualitative data, and basically trying to capture the essence of a chunk of text with one or two words. So labeling that chunk of text with some, by showing its essence. And NVivo calls these nodes, but we know them as codes. And the file itself?
Yes.
No, because this project was not initiated using NVivo. This is the project I mentioned that we use the Google stuff to organize. And so when I wanted to pull it from NVivo, I had to download these files from, well, this Zoom transcript came right from Zoom, but otherwise I had to pull them from Google and then import them here. So all of those best practices for file naming and stuff, you don't see here. I like to have it kind of messy, kind of ugly, so that we can clean it together. And then I can show you the different types. So you see all the files I have for this project, and I can look at all of
You see how do you code it? This is the transcript. How do you code it?
So you can highlight the text. All right, and I'm gonna go to this panel on the side. And instead show it, what my codes are showing here, what I'll be able to do is just drag this over and tell it what I want to put. So let me go to, then I can also right click on it. That's what I did to create a lot of them. So this text, this is not even really, this is just me giving an introduction. I'm gonna scroll down to a random place. Okay, my little screen porch started off looking live. I didn't edit these Zoom transcripts, so I don't even know what this is about. That might be a Zoom error. You highlight the text, right click on the text, and then you can code selection is the very first thing at the top. Okay, and I actually already have some codes, some that I have written, but I played with the auto coding feature, and auto coding came up with these codes, and I can use one of those or not. Other codes are here. So my auto coded things in this folder, when I expand it, there's a ton of them, and they're just words that often don't make a lot of sense. But for the codes that I created, the person, it says something about a porch started looking alive, a screen porch. I could code that as, for now, I'm just gonna code it as community. And then you see when that pops up, I can say code selection to community. And then also, hard to see, I'm gonna go through community also. And then once I start coding, I could, let's say I made a mistake. I could uncode that one. So that's the button to uncode. But once I start coding, I have also this option to code to recent code. So I don't have to go to code selection and, go through the menu and then pick them all over.
If I'm working in the same code, maybe I will go and I
And then, let's see. I'm gonna get some coding stripes yet. Want to.
First of all, you put your codes at the beginning. You import your files and you encode your research, the codes, and then you connect between the transcript and the coding.
If you already have established codes, like
Mhm.
from, like if you're exploring something that's really established in the literature.
Yes.
And those codes might be coming from that, like established concepts, like the very first project I worked on was about role conflict. And so we had stuff like role conflict, role strain, concepts coming from the literature, not from me. So I could go ahead and go in here and establish those codes. And then when I go to the text, I'm sorry, with the transcript, like you mentioned, I already have my code set up and I can just assign it to a code. Otherwise, if you want to code in vivo, and if you're coding without, if you're building your theory rather than testing a theory, and coding in vivo, and it could be topical based on what I'm seeing here, then I can create new codes. And so if I go to code selection, I can create a new code this way. Let's say this is for housing, because it says something about the screen porch. And then I create a new code and I'm coding this chunk of text to the code that I've just created. Okay, and then while I'm looking at these files on the side, because I've already been in here playing and coding, see the number of codes. I just noticed that this transcript went from 63 to 64 codes because I just added, the thing I love about NVivo, you see this peer-reviewed article here. Just like I can code my documents that I import, I can code these documents as well. And so let's see, down to something. Historical overview, racialized coastal blue space in greater Miami area. So then maybe if I wanted to highlight this text and then code this selection, I want to create a new code for history.
Yes, I can use it for the references or something.
Yes. Code selection to this new code. Okay. And then this one, because again, you use all kinds of files. And so this photo doesn't look very good right now, but what it is, it's actually a historical photo, an aerial view of a beach, Surfside. If you remember where the apartment building collapsed in Miami, Surfside, last year or the year before. So this is a historical photo of that same Surfside area. And I could come here and drag a region here. Right click on it, build this selection. Maybe that will, not quite water. So you can code PDF like the article. You can code text files, of course. You can code photos. You can also code videos. I have not tried coding video yet, but you can do that as well. And other things that I want to show you. Spot. All right. Here's a code. I discovered that it doesn't take much to do orchids. It's all about having them in the right location. I don't even know why we're talking about orchids, but let's say I find this really interesting because the interview was supposed to be about the beach. I don't know how we got onto flowers and gardening. But what I want to do is I can like to create a memo. So the memos are like your research notes, your notes about documents, or notes about your types of files. And so maybe I will call this one research journal, and I can give it a description. And you can have one memo on in your document, but you can only have one of them. So let me create this one per document, I should say. And so basically think of memos as like notes, okay? And so if I'm reflecting on what it is I see, why were we discussing plants? It's basically keeping your thoughts separate from your data. Okay, so thoughts about your data or reflecting on your data. You can keep those in a separate document, and you can even import notes or memos if you already have one created in Evernote. If you have something created in Microsoft Word, you can import it. Just make sure you import it as a memo. So each of these that I've called files here, like we looked at a transcript, we looked at a photo, we looked at an article. Each of those is considered a source document. You can only have one memo per source. So the memo that I'm looking at that I created in my transcript document, I can only have one memo, but I can keep all of my notes in that one memo. All right, when I go to the photo, if I'm creating a memo about the photo, I can only create one, but I can keep all of the notes into that one memo. And then let's go back here. Find another little chunk of text. I see something here about South Africa. I'm going to highlight it, and what I want to do here is saw it on the screen. Here it on see. There we go. New annotation. So an annotation in NVivo is like a comment in Microsoft Word, and you can have multiple annotations throughout your document. So this annotation, I'm just going to add an annotation that will travel to South Africa. Nope. Okay. So annotations are like comments. Memos are like additional files that you create, but you can have one per document. And so it helps you, keep track of, there's a problem here, or maybe this project was about beaches in the North Florida Panhandle. And one of the terms that came up a lot was Apalachicola. And that's not something that Zoom knows how to transcribe. And I've seen some crazy things that it tried to get transcribed as Apalachicola. And so maybe if I'm looking at it in the transcript, I will go and highlight it and make an annotation and say, go back and listen to the recording. Is this supposed to be Apalachicola or Coca-Cola or whatever, is supposed to be? So it helps you reflect, keep your notes, keep your thoughts, keep your questions, and document them as you go without having to, have keep a written journal or something outside of NVivo. So everything for the project gets kept together for the project. Go back here to expanding this navigation menu on the side. I'm scrolling down because I have something on this menu for notes. And when I click on notes, I can pull up all of my memos. And the screen. I've got, all right. I've got notes on Annie's interview. I've got the research journal I just created, and I've got notes about DW. Okay, so I can keep on my access my memos that way. And then you see annotations on this menu also. Everywhere that I've added an annotation or a comment, I can pull up easily and go back and say, like, if I'm making annotations of all of the problems in the text or things that I want to go back and look at, when I click on annotations, I can pull them all up and see what is this, annotation and is it that I want to go back and look at. Okay. I'm going to go back up to show you. Coding codes. Okay. This is what I was trying to get to before. So from this navigation menu, when you click on codes, I can see all of the codes created for this project. So here, and then the simpler, easier way would be like, okay.
You mean by files, how many files are connected to this code? Yes. What do you mean by what do you mean by references? Are they?
How many times
yeah, how many times within that file that code appears.
Yeah,
Um,
repetition.
Frequency.
I want to get this annotation off the screen, but so. There we go. Okay, so
التنظيم أصلا.
I can't see what this text fully says, but the easier way for coding, the most simple way while you're going through your transcript or your file or whatever, highlight the text and then you can go here and then drag and say, this was about housing. And then that just added to the code. So once you've got your codes, a good number of codes, I find that it's easier to create new codes in Vivo, like by going, right clicking and going to this menu. But once you've got a good number of codes established, you can go through your file and just say, oh yeah, this is about, Florida native.
Maybe the part of the sentence is related to a code and the other part is related to another code.
And whatever you highlight is what's going to be captured for that code. And then my coding has been all over the place for this particular one. So this is what I was looking for, the document screen, turn the annotations off, a little bit more room on the screen. And I can also drag this panel over.
مشكلة نسيت جايبة أو مشكلة. في الدكتوراه كنت عاملة الورق عندي بوكسات.
So I feel like
عارفة أروح للحاجة.
70% of what you're doing, good uses of NVivo will be the coding and the organizing. And it's really simple. Go to your file, highlight the text, drag it to the code. All right. And then when you want to see the density of your codes, you can turn on to view the coding stripes. And I have so many codes, I don't know if it's going to be really useful. Oh, that's really hard to see. But I can see just from this left panel, family has been coded 10 times, and that's locations 25.
The other one in the strips, you will see the sentences.
No, not in the sentence, but you'll see the codes and you'll see the density of it. So if I can.
And these are
me
codes
see
just
the
for this
density.
individual file, right? Or is it all collective?
Yes, this is for this file,
Okay,
not everything in the project.
gotcha.
And I'm trying to get, you can kind of see two of the stripes
Mhm.
here, but let's see if we can. Anything else. So where I went wrong with this project is this article has already been published. And so I just put it into NVivo for practice purposes. And so the practice purposes, I tried auto coding, and that auto coding added like an additional 60 codes. And so, and then the codes don't make a lot of sense. Like it could be a word that only appeared one time. And now instead of having, these 10 codes I created, I've got like 100 codes. And so I have to scroll through all of these just to kind of get to those coding stripes. Okay, but coding, and so we call the process coding, but the actual codes NVivo calls them nodes. So don't be scared if you see that word node, code, same thing. You want to be able to code, you want to be able to make memos, you want to be able to make annotations. And then you want to be able to explore your data a little bit. So I am going to open it back up. Actually, let me close some of this. This research journal, that's my demo. I'm closing that. The photo that I coded, close that. The article, close that. I'm gonna keep this, turn off the coding stripes. Oh, here's my reminder. It's been more than 15 minutes since you last saved. Do you want to save your project? Yes, absolutely. I'm turning off the coding stripes. Okay. And now I just see my codes and this transcript that I was coding. I'm going to open back up this navigation panel on the left, and then I'm going to scroll down to queries. And then if I click on queries, it opens up a few options here. And so that's one way to do it. I also like to go to this explore menu at the top. And so it tells you right here that you can do a text search. You can search for word frequency. I'm going to come back to the matrix coding and then other types of frequencies. So let's do text search first. And it's asking me what text do I want to search for? I'm going to say, water. I mean, all of these were related to the beach, but I think the word beach would be used too often. I want to see everything that comes up related to water. And then maybe more screen. See, oh, it's asking me if I want exact matches of the word. Like, yeah, I just want water, or, I don't have to worry about watering or watered, because I'm looking for water as a noun. But if you wanted, just the stem of the word, you could change it to the stem. And so it will give me everything, watering, watered, waters, with water as a stem. Synonyms, so maybe, so as you move this bar down, you go from very specificity, exact match, to things that aren't so exact, like the stems, and then the synonyms, and then, other specifications you can ask. But I want exact matches to water.
I have a question, please. By the mean of the synonyms or something like that, I'm the one who will going to create these,
No.
I understand the meaning of the words.
So yeah, it's,
Program understand. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I don't have to tell it. It already, it's gonna look.
If I use a slang or something like that, it will understand it.
I don't think so for slang, but I
Okay.
think for, standard dictionary words.
Yes.
Slang, you would have to do that yourself. Okay, so I'm telling it what I wanted to search for. And then I can tell it which files I wanted to search. So, I can tell it I don't need it to search the photos, but maybe I wanted to search, this document and this document, the transcript. So some of these are notes and some of these transcriptions. And then, what the heck, let it search a journal article. I'm going to say, okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the query and give it a moment to do its thing. Query results exclude project stop words, add or remove stop words within project properties. And so those stop words would be like, and, you just tell it, which ones you don't want to search for, you don't include. And so here are my results for those files that I clicked on. The word water came up 11 times in one, 5 times another, 21 times, 6 times, and then in that journal article, it came up 22 times. And so depending on what you're working on, I can't think of an example. I could, if this is about student engagement, I'm trying to think of a word. Okay, like focus. Maybe I want to see how many times the word focus came up, and if it's like an interview or something. And so, it could be useful for you to use this at the beginning of your project to look for commonly occurring words. Also, while you're thinking about how you're going to develop your codes, and then maybe I'm using the word. What was the code I had? I think I had water views. Well, maybe I started with the code water, but it's not water that people are talking about. They're actually talking about looking at the water. And so I would change, I can go back and change all of those codes from water to water views. And then also when you are toward the end of your project, when you're thinking about what quotes would be great to include, you can do a text search. Maybe you remember somebody said something about orchids. You can't remember what they said about orchids, but they talked about orchids and it was really profound how they said it. Well, I can search for orchid and I can find that how many times the word orchid has come up. All right, so I am going to actually, we are not seeing everything. Hang on just a second. Let's see if I can. That was the preview. I want us to see the whole. I'm going to change the. So I won't have to crane and look sideways. So what we're looking at is the summary. And then I don't know if you can see this, the little tiny tab here. See if I can adjust it. But the first tab was summary. It was basically saying how many times that word came up in each of the files. And then the next one was the references. So it actually pulls out, the actual sentence or the context, maybe not a full sentence, but the context of the word. Like this one, the desk walked into the water, he can't swim. Bless you. So something about walking into the water. And it's probably saying walked into the water knee deep, but it's just kind of trying to give me a context for how that word was used. And it also gives me the word tree. Let me- what is this full screen? I think it's not. And so the issue with the upload and download not appearing, anytime you're in the VLab across any software, any program, you should see this little semicircle, half circle thing that expands. And then clicking on it. Now I'm not sure why it wouldn't appear, but I'll try to troubleshoot that. Okay, so getting back to my query, I have a word tree that shows the word I searched for. It'd be better if we could see this across the screen, but we could also export it to Microsoft. And so it tells me in each document, and so if the next word is and, so water and it tells me what comes after that next word. And so it helps me to see the context of whatever word that I searched for. So it's not just telling you how many times the word appeared. You could do that in Microsoft Word, but it's offering you more functionality than that. So I've got the word tree. Already. Oh, it's showing me.
Sometimes I see these pictures in some researches, the diagrams and.
Yeah, they put the tree right in as a visualization in their
Yes.
reports.
Data analysis.
And then when you go to explore, you go back to explore. That was the word, that was the text search, but also the word frequency. Similar thing to see how frequently it'll give me the 1,000 most frequently appearing words. And I can tell it how long the word has to be. So right now it says minimum length of 3. I'm going to say I need the word to at least be 5 characters. And then, I can run the query. So again, as you're starting a project, you've got your data, you want to explore your data, you want to see, what's coming up. No surprise, it's a project about beaches. The word beach appears the most often, 595 times. Okay, the next one, people, okay, and 283 times. But similar to that last search, if I look at this tiny little menu over here, the next thing, that was the summary, but I also get a word cloud that's generating for me. Actually, if I you can see that, I don't know if you can see that bar at the bottom where it's processing. So here are the 1,000 most commonly appearing words in those 5 files that I selected, right? Of course, the larger ones appear more often. And then I minimized the ribbon up here, but if I go back to the word frequency ribbon, I can even change the appearance of that word cloud. I'm not gonna do that too many times because it takes a while for those to generate. And you could export those directly, you want a visualization for your paper publication. Last one, go back to this basic one, it's easy to see. That was a little bit easier to read. And then, so that's my word cloud. Then the next one, I've got the word tree, tree map. And then the next one, cluster analysis, which is really hard to see because remember, it's 1,000 words that it's studying, okay? But again, use this at the beginning to see which words are commonly appearing and search for things later. So that's the text query and the word frequency query. You can find both of those on the Explore Explore tab of the menu. Okay, and then we already did the very simple coding. I do want to show you auto coding. Let me go back home. My menu on the side. So that was all under my queries menu. I'm going to close that menu. I'm going to go back up to coding. I've already tried auto coding here, and I could go to explore the themes that it came out with, but let's do a new one. So I'm going to close. If I like the word frequency, I'll keep it. I can export it. Let me get my hard to scroll back up here, but let's say I wanted to keep this, I can export. But I don't want to keep it because it's not even all the files. And I'll close my text search, and I guess I can close the transcript. So now when I'm just saying codes, I'm going to go to create. I don't know if I showed you this, another way to create the code. Same way, but you can add more of a description, name it, add a description, then it'll appear on the list. So if you know ahead of time what your codes are, go ahead and put this in there. I want to I mentioned that I tried the auto coding. This is what happened with my auto coding. You see, I've got words like beach, beach trip, and beaches, 3 different codes that it created. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but I could have applied some filters and limitations to it while I was doing it, but I did not. All right, so I'm going to go to under cases, which the different things that I've imported. I've already classified some of them as interviews, literature, North Florida, South Florida, photos. I'm gonna go to interviews. I think we were doing Nancy reporting, but I will go to. All right, and close this. Better. All right, under my coding, I can come here and I can see what's already been coded. I can see, I can go to my coding stripes. But I can also see those things on this view. And if you look under here, there is a button called auto code. And you hover over it, most things in here, they will tell you what they are. So code selected items automatically, configured to identify themes or sentiment or use speaker names, text formatting, previous coding patterns. I've tried this a few different ways. So most often you'll probably want to be identifying themes. But for identifying sentiment, like the valence, if something is spoken positively, negatively, I think that it did a little bit better with coding the sentiment, and we'll try both. So we'll start with themes, and then say next. Notice that there's a button here, use existing coding patterns. If you've already been coding and you coded a significant amount of your data, I say significant, at least 10%, and you want it to code as you've been coding or try to code as you've been coding, you can tell it to use existing patterns, but I want to see what it comes up with. And so I'm going to hit next. Preparing to identifying themes in this transcript file. And so it came up with all of these. And this is the part where I went wrong because I just went to next. But if I look on this and I see gasoline, gas, maybe I'll say, okay, well, that's just something, and that's not really a theme. I can uncheck that. Then I can go through this list and I can, uncheck other things. I don't know why all class appeared, so I'm gonna uncheck that one. I'm gonna uncheck keep activity on trips. And if you don't uncheck them, you just end up with dozens and dozens of codes. Then I'll go next, and it'll say, how finely should NVivo code text passages? Do you want to decode the sentence? Do you want to decode the paragraph? Do you want to decode the entire cell for data sets, transcripts, and logs? I'm going to tell it to code sentences, and then I'm going to say next. And then for those new codes that it created, I can say where, I want those codes to be saved. I recommend saving them separately from the codes that you have created, just in case you want to compare or you want to go back and look. And so I already have a folder called auto-coded themes, and that works for me. Or if you need to create a new folder, you can do that. And then I'm going to hit finish. This thing. And so for those codes it just identified, it's basically showing me like a visual map of what it coded, but it already told me like how many times. I see the chart here. You click on this next tab for summary, and then it tells me a summary of what it coded. I don't know why it's not telling me the names of them, but I can see them here. And then when I go back to my transcript file, I can look at the coding stripes to see what it did. So let's see here. I'm not seeing many colors, so maybe it's not enough codes. And then my auto code results, it's telling me how many times it coded for each of these. I just have to scroll over. So it's a cool feature, but I say use it with caution, and use it as an exploratory tool, and then compare it how it's auto coding things to how you're coding things. I'm going to go back to transcript, go back to this particular case, and do auto code again, this time for sentiment, and see how it does. Then tell it to code sentences again. That was much quicker. It's still processing. And basically it's told me mixed sentiment. There's my chart. Let's see my summary. It didn't code too many things from here, but it coded a few of these. Close some of these. Compare by number of sentiment coding reference. And then it gives me the summary here of how many things it coded, but it really just, so here, very negative, I think that says 26, 20, moderately negative, 22, moderately positive, 39, very positive, 9. All right, so this is how it categorizes sentiment and already coded things for me. And if I want to see what it coded, here's the first reference. I know that Mississippi has a very terrible history as it comes to race relations, but what I have learned is that when you talk about racism, it is a national problem. It's just not, how the sentence continues. But I can see why it coded that as very negative, because what it actually says is very terrible history. And so I'm like, okay, that's pretty accurate. I would code that as very negative as well. So it did a pretty good job with sentiment analysis. All right, I'm going to close that. I want to show you, let's see, maybe one or two other tools, but oh, this clock is wrong. Okay, I see I don't have a lot of time. What questions do you have about getting started with NVivo? Let me show you one other thing. You have this file, you want to save your NVivo project file. So basically I can save these analysis that I just ran and everything that I've been doing on my word clouds, although I think I closed the word cloud. But I just hit the save button, but it didn't, see nothing happened. You can see it saving on the bottom of the screen. But what I need to do is, I need to not just save it, but export that. I'll copy this and save it. Basically, what I'm trying to get it to do is save it in the VLab so then I can then download it to my own. Because I just hit save, not gonna let me do it again. But it's asking, you know, do I want to save it as a project file for Windows? Yes, because I'm already using or Mac or a collaboration server project. And then I can tell it where to save it. Just pay attention, just like you pay attention to where you upload the files, pay attention to where you download them. I am under this PC documents before, I think I was under desktop, and I don't have any NVivo project files. I'll save this one as, I think I called it. Right, and then you have to do that extra step before we upload it. Now you have to download and then just know where you're downloading to. I don't have a, I do have a memory device in here. So here is the practice project. I can tell it that I want to download it, or I can move it into my memory device. So that's how you get your stuff out. Another way to do this, if you also open email, like if you don't have a memory device in here, open email and send your files to yourself, but you got to get them out of the VLab onto your own computer, your own device, whatever it is. Now, what questions can I answer for you to get started with NVivo? So we talked about basic coding, auto coding, creating memos, creating annotations, of course, importing your data, different types of files. We did the word frequency search. We did the text query. We did not get to the matrix query, but if you are familiar with analyzing quantitative data, if you've ever done like cross tabulation, it's basically that feature, but for text data, where it can create a matrix that lets you look at like the frequency of number of times something is coded in a particular way, looking at particular classifications. So if I know that maybe I've also coded like age groups, and I want to create a matrix of how many codes here for each age group, I can do that with the matrix. And then importing, I didn't show exporting, but also downloading. And those are the main things that you would want to do. And with my last few moments, if there are no questions, I will share a few last tips with you. Use NVivo for its full capabilities. I met with a qualitative researcher on campus who does a lot of work, a lot of training, teaches other people how to use NVivo, and she described it as driving a Ferrari to the grocery store to get a loaf of bread. You got all these tools and all these features, but most of us are doing very simple, basic things in NVivo, and that's fine until you're ready to level up and do other things. Cool. Okay, so use it for what it is, organize your data, organize your project, get all your files, different types of files in one place, get them well organized, write memos about them, annotate them. I don't know about you, but I don't know, I guess some programs, you know, you could make notes about photos, but having something that can, you know, you can code a photo, code a video, make notes about that is pretty incredible. You can also, other than the codes that we talked about, or auto coding or codes that describe your data, you can also set up codes like, I'm struggling how to code this. All right, and that helps you know what you want to go back to because you have all those nodes together. I always recommend having some way to designate good quotes so that you have, or you easily identify them when you want to pull them into your papers and presentations. But you can just create a code for that. So as you're going through, highlight the text, drag it to that good quote node or code. All right, you can also create a node for to do, but I think the annotations will work just as well, or if not better for that. As you are going through your data, you might have to clean up transcripts. Be sure that you don't write over your original files. So, save files in a way that you know what they are, but don't lose your data by writing over it. But also, if you have more codes or nodes than you think you will use, don't delete them. All right. You can save them in a folder where you can use them later. And then, because we don't always work on our projects every day, it's good to know where you left off and where you want to pick up. So you can use left off, just to show you where you stop, especially when you got these really long interviews or transcripts and you're going through 50 pages, maybe you only got through 12 pages. Well, at least you know exactly where to pick up from there. And finally, this was only meant to be an introduction to get you really interested in, some of the capabilities you can use NVivo for. But from here, if you need additional help, aside from coming to me, NVivo has got a really great knowledge base where it's got all kinds of articles about the things that you do most often and even some of its new features. There's even what's called NVivo community where you can connect with others, even experts, or maybe, people who are using it in a similar way that you're using it. And then that's all separate from NVivo support, which is like a typical customer support where you can submit your questions or, submit emails to that. And of course, because so many people use NVivo and it's been around so long, if you need additional help, I recommend even going to search for videos, just people who don't work for NVivo have created videos on how to use them. Finally, I can help you with NVivo, or I can help you find the answers for NVivo. You can email me directly. My email is mturner4@fsu.edu. I thank you for being here this afternoon, and I would love it if you would scan this QR code to take this survey, and I will put this link in the
We
chat.
will email you for the material.
No, if you register for this workshop, it'll be sent out. And also this webinar has been recorded and it will be placed on the library's website under research data management. We have all of our past workshops there.
Okay, so you will send us.
Yes.
Thank you.
It won't come from my name, but someone will send you.
Okay.
Question, please. Do you know if this program can you Arabic support Arabic language? Does it support Arabic language?
I'm not sure. We can look at the list. I didn't look at all of the languages. I know it didn't have a whole lot of languages. But we'll see. And yeah, I'm just trying to copy this link. Doesn't want to cooperate. Okay. So if you can scan the QR code, right? Or Ashley or Nick, if you have the link in the survey, if you can help that, put it in the slides, but it won't let me copy. Thank you for being here in the room and online, and I'm here to support you on your research and learning journey. So contact me if you need to. Oh, and I did bring a few cards if you want.